Well, hi, I'm Laura and welcome to the channel. Well, today we're going to talk about two types of friends, and I bet you can recognize at least one, if not both. How do we deal with them? How did we get involved with them? And how do we make sure that if we enjoy our time with them, that we're able to maintain a relationship? Both of these questions came from our community, and I thought I'd combine them together today because there is some crossover while they seem a little opposite ends. Number one is the passive-aggressive friend. You know, the person who never comes out and tells you exactly what they're thinking, exactly what they're feeling. But they have their little ways of letting you know that they're disappointed in what you said, what you did, or how you handled something. The other type of friend, and this is one of my favorites, is the big talker. I like to call them big talk, no action. They always have advice. They're always free with the criticism, how you should have done it better or differently. If I had been in charge, this is what I would have done. But they never step up. They never risk getting in the limelight because then they're afraid that they will be judged like they judge other people. Well, again, I'm Laura and welcome to the channel. I hope you'll take a moment to subscribe. I've got my coffee cup, please subscribe. But we talk about getting older as women and navigating relationships, friendships, because as our lives change, as friends move away, as friendships quite naturally have to change as they look different, how do we maintain the friendships we've built over the years? How do we make new friends? And what does our social circle look like as we get into our 60s and our 70s and 80s? And I want to give a shout out to all the young women that follow this channel because I think there is a lot to be learned from, not just from me and from what I'm saying, but reading the comments and the experiences that so many of you in our community share. I had a young woman reach out to me and say, I feel like I've got an aunt who is just there to give me wise counsel and advice. So thanks to all of you for making that happen. So how do we deal with the passive-aggressive friend? We love them, but gosh, they just can't spit it out. And likewise, how do we manage a friendship with someone who is always the big talker, knows everything? Big talk, no action. So we'll talk about the passive-aggressive friend first. And everyone, I think, has had a passive-aggressive friend. I know a lot of you in the comments have mentioned that you have passive-aggressive relationships in your own family. And if you think about the family dynamic, right, everyone's always trying to keep the peace. We never, you don't want to argue about everything, right? Not in friendship and certainly not in family. So how do you get around someone who just won't tell you how they feel, who maybe fears a disagreement, a pushback, argument to the extent that they can't be honest about how they're feeling. They can't even give you an honest answer sometimes to where they want to go to dinner, but yet they show their disdain. I'm sure you've had the experience, I know I have, where you have a friend who never takes a position on anything. So let's go to lunch. What time? Where do you want to go? Pick the date, pick the time, okay, you do it all, right? Because if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. You get to the restaurant and the first thing out of their mouth is, oh, I've heard this place wasn't very good. Oh, I've heard that the service here isn't all that great. Oh, I was surprised you picked this place. Okay, well, I wouldn't have picked any place if you had given me some feedback. Or the person who says, pick a place, I'll meet you there, I can do this day or this day. So you pick a date, you pick a place, and you get the text back. Oh, well, I really hadn't planned on making that long of a drive, or could we find someplace closer to my house? Or my friend went to XYZ coffee shop and just loved it. Couldn't we try that instead? Yeah, we can try anything, but you've got to share, give me some direction, because if you're not going to help plan, then I'm going to go ahead and make the plans because I want to see you. I want to spend time with you. But gosh, those first 5 minutes are always so awkward because you make sure you let me know that I didn't quite do things the way that you would have done them. The passive aggressive person, at least in a friendship with another woman, tends to be someone who just doesn't want to commit. They don't want to commit with an opinion, with a yes or no answer. They like other people to take the lead because, like the big talk, no action person, they like to be able to sit in the rear seat of the car and tell you how you should be driving versus offering to pick you up and doing the driving themselves. We all know the back seat driver. So one of the things I try to do, I've never been passive aggressive, maybe to a fault, but I don't think I've always done a good job of managing passive aggressive people, because my attitude is, if you're not going to make a decision, I'll make a decision. But I will say that I get irked then when they give me that funny look or when they make that comment. And sometimes they don't do it outwardly. Sometimes they wait and they drop it on you toward the end of the lunch or the end of the event. You invite someone to go to the movies with you. You invite someone to go take a walk. And as you're finishing up the movie, you're finishing up the walk, they're like, oh, I never liked this park. And there's so many other prettier places. Or, boy, I heard that movie wasn't very good. And I have to agree. Okay, tell me that at the beginning. If you have a better place, if you have a better idea. It's very hard to deal with people like that because they're just not going to tell you what's truly on their mind. So number one, you accept it. You don't have to like it, but you accept it. I have tried to say to a friend like that, why don't you pick the next time? I've gone so far as to get that friend to commit to another restaurant when we're finishing up our lunch and we're starting to talk about where we'd like to go next month or getting together next month. And when I'm in front of that person and I'm able to say directly to them, hey, give me the name of a restaurant that you've liked or some of your other friends have enjoyed. Is there a place that you've wanted to go to? Is there a movie you've wanted to see? Is there a museum you'd like to go to? Is there a library program? Get them to commit when you are in person. Because the whole passive aggressive personality is one thing. What we're trying to talk about today is, what do you do when you have a friend who is that way? And they just, they come across as never seeming happy because the decision was never theirs, the choice was never theirs. And so as a result, they almost feel like they have an obligation to not have a good time, 100%. They may have had a great time, but something just wasn't quite right. Something was wrong with their food. Something was wrong with the parking. Something was wrong with the traffic. They just have to have something to share with you to let you know that things were not quite up to snuff. So fast forward to the person who in many ways seems to be the opposite, but I think they're very much the same, and that is the big talker, no action. They've always got a plan. They've always got an idea. They always have a way to do things that's easier, better, but they don't ever do it. They don't help you if you're looking for a better way to do something. They're happy to give you instructions. They're happy to let you know that they would have done it differently, especially if you're sharing with someone that, you use the new dry cleaner and your shirt came out ruined, and the first thing out of their mouth is, oh, you should have called me. I would have told you, don't ever go to that dry cleaner. You need to go to this dry cleaner. It's just, and what I would say to them is, no, I'm not going to call you and ask you because you're not going to give me an answer. But the big talker knows everything, but usually knows it after the fact. They're big on, we should do this, we should go here, we should try that. But when it comes to the planning, very much like the passive aggressive person, they step back. And I think both types of people share, what they share in common is they don't want to commit because they don't want anyone to say they did the wrong thing, they made the wrong choice, it wasn't up to snuff. And what I tend to experience with those people is there is a little bit of insecurity on their part. They want to impress other people. They want to come across as perfect, maybe in their own mind. None of us are perfect, but they want to be the ideal friend. They want to be the ideal group member. They put a lot of pressure on themselves because they think other people are judging them the way that they are, in fact, judging other people. And so when you have people in your life that just aren't going to take a stand, they aren't going to make a decision, they aren't going, and then they're not going to back you up if it doesn't work out. And quite honestly, some of them don't dish out the compliments that well either when things go really, really well. What they tend to do is jump on the bandwagon. And, I'm glad we went there. I remember you and I talked about that place, and I recommended it to you. I'm so glad we ended up going. Somehow they're always on the right side of everything. I don't fear being on the wrong side of a decision, a crummy restaurant, a bad movie, whatever the case. I'm willing to try things for the sake of trying things because that's part of the journey. And hopefully you have people in your life that are like that. But as we get older, we don't always get to pick and choose who is in our life, in that we don't get to pick and choose that people are perfect, that they fit into our lives perfectly. Oftentimes, because our friend groups get a little more limited, we, rather than close ourselves off and not have things to do, we do hang out with people that, just are passive aggressive, people that are big talkers. Sometimes they're in our own family, and we really don't have a lot of choice in our own family. We have to kind of deal with the cards that we're dealt 99% of the time. And you want to keep peace. But more importantly, you want to have people in your life that you enjoy, regardless of their idiosyncrasies. If someone aggravates you to the point that you don't want to be around them anymore, absolutely, you move on. But trying to pin down these people when you are with them before they show their, aggravation, disappointment, the sighs, the rolling of the eyes, the disappointment, the I knew all along. And they always know. They are the only one in the group, but I guarantee you, they always knew. They knew it was going to fail. It wasn't going to be perfect. There was going to be a problem. Call those people out in person before you plan the next event. Weave it into the conversation. What have you been doing with your free time? Oh, you went there? Oh, let's do that the next time. They don't like being cornered, and you will watch them physically backpedal. Oh, I did it once. I don't want to do it again. It isn't that they don't want to do it again. They don't want to be responsible for whether or not you'll enjoy it. even if you're someone who enjoys trying anything, because they are judging based on how they judge. Both passive-aggressive friends and big talkers are really more concerned with what you'll think of them. That's their issue. So push them out of their comfort zone and see if you can get them to lighten up a little. Well, thanks so much for stopping by the channel. I hope you'll subscribe, and I look forward to talking to you the next time about this crazy thing called friendship as we get older and wiser. Take care. Bye-bye.